never believed in our Lord Jesus Christ. Never carried a Bible. I grew up in Blue Island, right not too far from here, in the 50s. We're a single parent family. Mother tried to raise 4 kids and she couldn't. I'd go for weeks at a time not be home, 14 years old. I worked out at chop shops, crime. And I grew up in crime. I lied, cheated, stole. The 10 Commandments was something I just used to have fun with. I'll break this one today. And that, and this one. Thou shalt not kill. I will leave that one for the Lord. I used to do all of them. So anyway, I'm in this position where I need to see this lady. And he leans over and tells me, he says, she's a messenger. What does that mean? He said, what that means is you can't see her again. They only come once. And it was a matter of fact. He said, her job was to let you know that you can't leave. And I still didn't comprehend. And then finally, after about 15 minutes of talking to him, I kind of figured out what he meant, if I didn't believe it. So after 2 months, I couldn't handle it no more. And Betty and my wife Susan were kind of trained on how to do dressings and all that. I was allowed to leave. I had to go through another month and a half of constant changing dressings and trying to learn how to walk all over again and a bunch of other stuff. But then I went back to work. And I'm in the auto recovery business, the repo man. And I love that job. You steal cars and can't get arrested. It's great. Right in my head. So I go back to work. And about 2 weeks later, my partner and I are in Gary, Indiana, in a really bad neighborhood. And we're in the backyard, and I'm going to get this guy's car. The only problem is I'm wearing Job's gloves. Can't be without Job's gloves with my hands. And I'm a very stubborn person. I said, give me that dent puller, I'll do it. He said, no, Dave, I'll get it. I said, I told you I'll get it. So I'm banging away, and it slipped out of my hands, falling on the ground. The guy comes out with a gun in his hand. And he doesn't look happy. And he points the gun directly at me. He said, get away from my car, I'll blow your head off. I got out of the car, and my partner, his name was Fred, he said, Dave, no. And I started walking toward the guy. And when I got about 10 feet away, I said, give me the damn gun. And the poor guy's hand started shaking, which is even bad, worse than him. But then I got 2 feet away from him. I said, I told you, give me the gun. And I grabbed it out of his hand. And we got the car and we left. And I went by the police department, turned the gun. And then we get back to the shop, put the car away. And Fred said, what the hell was that all about? And I had figured out on the way back to Blue Island, I have no fear of death. That fear went away. The fear was completely gone. That's the first thing I figured out about this experience I had. But it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years. Years. In 2000, I'm going to jump a lot of years now. In 2000, I was flat broke. Didn't have a dime in my name. I made a really bad financial choice with a restaurant bar. My fault. But it's right before Christmas. And I'm broke. And I got 2 kids. It's about 4 days before Christmas. And I'm in my office. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell am I going to do here? I got bills stacked up just thick on the desk. Don't have a dime in my name. I haven't talked to God lately. So I'm sitting in this big chair. My wife had bought, I can't find it, so this has to take this place. 3 L's. They're stacked on top of each other. Walgreens had it for sale, like $4.99. So this penguin was 3 L's. And it was above my desk on a bookcase. And since nobody's in the office, I can talk to myself. It's okay. Got people in it, then it's not okay. You're nuts. So I started talking to myself. I leaned back on my chair. I could actually see the 3 L's up there propped up. And I said, you know, I haven't done nothing wrong lately. I don't know why you're mad at me. I'm having a conversation with God. And I said, I don't know why you're so mad at me. I haven't done anything wrong. I don't cheat. I don't steal. I don't lie. I don't do any of the things I used to be really good at. I work for a living. I work long hours. And here I got all these bills, all these past due payments. And I had this really deep conversation with God. And I ended up by saying, if you can help me, fine. If you can't, whatever it goes on. So I put my head back down and I started doing some paperwork. And these 3 L's are back in this bookcase alongside my head. And I fell to the floor. So I looked down at the floor and I started laughing. I said, that's not the answer I'm looking for. Jeez, you know. Thanks, God. And I picked it up and I brushed all the dirt off it. I go to put it back up on top of the bookcase. And as I'm doing that, I had to get up on a chair. It's dirty. A lot of dust up there. Nobody's gonna go up there clean. And I'm an uneducated man. I dropped out in sophomore high school. More fun stealing cars. More fun chopping brand new cars that were stolen from some poor lady down the street. So I had no education. And this word pops in my head, inertia. The word actually comes through my head, inertia. And I'm sitting there as I'm putting this thing back, and I'm shaking my head and it's, geez, shut up. And about 4 times the word inertia. And then law of gravity. These are terms that professors use, terms that educated people use, not terms that car thieves use. So my head's all messed up. I go to put this thing back. And I get up on top of the bookcase and I see the dust all swirled up. And I put it back where it was and I punch it so it sticks up on the ceiling. All the dust in front of it's not touched. Not a bit of it's moved. And it's this far from the end of the bookcase. And as an uneducated man, it couldn't have fallen. It's humanly impossible. At least the dust would have been that way. It couldn't have gone like this. So I just shook it out of my head. The next morning, my wife comes into work, and I go to the P.O. box. And I reach in there, and the P.O. box is jammed full of checks. Every past due check I had for 4 months. There was about $7,000, a lot of money back then. And I go right back to work and Sue stamps all the checks and we deposit it. All the bills got paid. Every bill I had got paid. So I go home and take a nap. And about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, she called me. She says, hey, I just got a phone call. We have this new account. I can't say finance company, but a new account. And it was one of the best accounts I ever had in my life. We didn't have a financial problem after that. And it's all because I asked God for a favor. He slapped me in the head with a brush. But it was humanly impossible. And then just recently, when I decided to go ahead and try doing this, I don't even know how to spell inertia, let alone use it. And that word came back, inertia. So I go into Webster's Dictionary at work, and I'm looking under E-N-E, E-N-I, and for a half hour, the word don't even exist. And right when I was ready to give up, I go to I-N-E-R, inertia. Physics. The tendency of matter to remain at rest, if at rest or if moving, to keep moving in the same direction, unless affected by some outside force. I didn't make that up. That's the Webster Dictionary. And then I realized that there's a whole lot more to it than you realize. How a guy can go from my lifestyle to a guy that he didn't care about nobody. I could care less. And then go in 1 minute or 12 minutes, I'm sorry, of fire. Go through all those surgeries, all that rehab, just to find out down the road there's a whole lot more to it. And then the icing on the cake, the one that solves the problem. In 2005, with no warning, my wife died. And there was no warning. She had an aneurysm, and she died way too young. And she died in front of my face, and her son's face. And there was a lot of grief. My dad rushed from Branson, Missouri to be with me. And he's sitting at the dining room table, and I lost my temper. For the first time in many years, I actually lost my temper. Every other word was a foul 4-letter type word. He's sitting at the dining room table, and I told him, I said, one of two things better happen, it better happen right now. The voice that was in that burning car, and I'll know when I hear it. That's the part I left out. There was a voice in that burning car that told me to lay still and don't fight, the pain will go away. And I replied back to it with a 4-letter word and the word you. You figure it out. And then finally got to the point I knew I was going to die. So I curled up in the front seat and I said, okay, I'm ready. And all the pain went away. It didn't last too long, but it all went away. So anyway, I told my dad, I said, one of two things better happen right now. The voice in the burning car, and I'll know when I hear it. Or obese black lady better walk through that back door right now and straighten this shit out. Take me and get me out of here. I had no fear of dying. And bring her back. Let her raise the 2 kids and get me out of here. And my dad was a small man, thin, and he was already about 80 years old, and he was sick, he had cancer, and I didn't know it. Looked up and smiled, and he said, son, they can't, you only come once. And it didn't dawn on me what he had said until he had died. And that came back to me. He knew. He knew. They only come once. And then, in 2005, my wife passed away. 2 weeks later, my daughter, where's Sarah? She's back. My daughter loses the gas cap on her car. And for 2 weeks, Sarah and my son Steve and I were pretty close. And one Sunday morning, I told her, I said, you and Steve and your friend go and have some lunch or do something, and I'll go get your gas cap that you lost. I have all these things going through my head, tons of things. I get in my car and I'm going to Pep Boys at Route 83 in Cicero. And as I'm going there, I got to turn right on Route 83, and for reasons you can't explain, I keep going straight. Don't know why I went straight, but I went straight. And there's St. Benedict Cemetery, a little tiny cemetery. And it's a beautiful October day, it's crisp, clear. And I pull my car in there. And my mother's buried there. I haven't been there since 1977. I have no idea where she's buried at, wouldn't know. I pull my car in there and I park and I get out and I light a cigarette. I smoked. And I'm smoking a cigarette, I'm leaning against the car, and there's a middle-aged white lady, and she's about 20 yards away from me. And she's down on her knees with her back to me. It's a normal thing, it's a cemetery. She's praying or something. But then she turns her hands like this. And she had an old antique watering can. The kind I haven't seen since 1950. This is quarterly. Big, huge metal thing. And she looked right at me, and I looked right at her, and I waved my hand like this. Then she turned back to doing whatever she's doing. And then I looked down, and I'm reading Verta May Mendoza. My mother's married me. I'm standing on the gravesite. I got a lucky pick. So I stepped back and made some kind of comment about, oh, sorry, I stepped on one. And then finished my cigarette, got my car, and I'm leaving. Go get my daughter's gas tank. And as I go around the circle to leave, that thing in your head, like inertia, don't know why I'm thinking it, word inertia. Same thing happens. And I had to go back to that tree. I can't leave the cemetery, I have to go back to that sticking tree out there. So I go back to the tree and I get out of my car and I walk over to the fender. That lady is nowhere to be seen. I mean nowhere. And I'm looking all over the place. So I walked to Route 83 to the fence. I walked the whole length of the fence. No lady, no watering can. So I get in my car and I'm shaking my head and this is too much. So I drive to Pep Boys, I get the gas cap. I have sunglasses on. I get back in my car and I lose it. Broke the sunglasses all over my face, cut the side of my nose, a lot of noise. And that lady with the watering can sitting next to me. Sitting next to me in my car. Not the way the old black lady. Not the physical being. And then the words. I know I've been at. And then she actually said the words. Don't worry about us, we're fine. And that's all she said. And then I was fine. I had another pair of sunglasses. I cleaned my face all up with sunglasses. In other words, she's letting me know that we're all fine. You can't go. My job's not up. It's not done yet. And when it is done, I get to go. And I had no problem. And that's another messenger. Angel, whatever you want to call him. And that's